Well, after yesterday's double bombing in Afghanistan, the UK says it will finish its evacuation operation imminently, with the government admitting that people will be left behind. And I'm joined now by Afzal Amin. He's a former British Army officer and counterinsurgency strategist. Thank you so much for talking to us, Mr. Amin. What do you make of what happened yesterday and the situation that we now find ourselves in?
It's absolutely terrible, of course, that so many British and American military personnel deployed to Kabul to try and rescue innocent civilians from this catastrophic situation that's occurred now in Kabul, particularly all across Afghanistan. And for those innocent civilians, lots of children, lots of women, lots of men, to be targeted by terrorists in this barbaric attack is just awful beyond words. And my heart really goes out to everybody who's been affected. And the tragedy in all is that it was, I think, preventable. We just didn't pay attention for long enough to the detail of what was going on, particularly the buildup of so many people around Kabul airport, and then not securing the outer perimeter properly to protect those people, I think was a grave mistake. And the issue now is, what do we do next? Because whilst the families were affected, I think it's 90 or so civilians killed in Afghanistan and 13 US military personnel. It's terrible for those families. Their lives, every one of them, will be just brought to a standstill by this just utter shock of what's happened. There are still millions of Afghans who are facing this new situation in their country. And there are, of course, tens of thousands of Afghans to whom we, as the UK and as NATO, owe a huge moral responsibility. We can't just leave those people and depart. We shouldn't sleep, really, until all of those people are properly accounted for and brought to a place where they feel safe. And that really has to be something far beyond today's headlines, which we need to pay a lot more attention to, particularly our own ministers working with their counterparts in the neighbouring countries, particularly Pakistan, but also Tajikistan, Uzbekistan, of course, China too, and I dare say even Iran, to rescue those people. It's a matter of the utmost importance.
Well, what do you think is going to happen on August 31st when all the foreign troops leave and you have the Taliban running the country, ISIS-K obviously operating within its borders? What's going to happen to Afghanistan?
Yeah, this is a huge question. I mean, I've spent the last 3.5 years of my army career focused specifically on counterinsurgency strategy in Afghanistan, and several years before that in academic study looking at the same topic. So I've been following with great interest all the developments over the last sort of 20 years or so. And what we have here is a failure of NATO-level strategy. And this is something which cannot be repeated often enough. The people at the top of NATO really need to take a long, hard look at what they have done to contribute to this catastrophic failure in our ability to control the events surrounding the departure from Afghanistan. We all knew it was coming. We've known for years it was coming, and yet the planning for that has just been, it seems, just shambolic. And so on August 31st, I think that won't be the date. I suspect several days before that, almost all of the military forces there will have departed, and I don't think it'll be left the last day. But nonetheless, whether it's the 29th of August or 31st of August, it matters little. What matters most of all is what are we going to do for those people to whom we owe this huge debt of moral responsibility. We can't wash our hands of them. We must do much, much more to make sure that they are brought to a place of safety. And then, of course, we have the strategic challenge of what does this mean for Afghanistan's future. 40 million Afghans. We promised them hope, we promised them development, we promised them peace and security, and we failed to deliver in all of those areas. And we can't now just leave it. We must do something to ensure that we either, we need to make a policy decision on what do we do about the Islamic Emirate of Afghanistan. Are they a government we're going to work with and support to ensure they succeed, or are they a government we're going to oppose and make sure they collapse? And if that happens and they do collapse, and we have a range of competing groups in Afghanistan, the result of that could be far more catastrophic in the region, refugees and terrorism.
We're going to have to leave it there. So, I mean, thank you so much for talking to us. Watching